The night after David and Jessica stormed away, Hilda Morales sat on her porch with a cup of coffee gone cold in her hands. The sky was a deep indigo, pricked with stars that looked close enough to touch. Crickets sang in the avocado grove, and somewhere down by the creek, a bullfrog croaked like a broken trumpet. She had cried until her eyes burned, but now the tears had dried into something harder. Resolve, maybe? Or the first real peace she'd known in years. She thought about the 40 years she'd spent on her knees scrubbing other people's floors. The way Mrs. Langford in Columbus used to inspect her work with a white glove, docking $1 if she found a single smudge. The way Mr. Patel once screamed at her for breaking a teacup that had cost less than the bus fare she'd paid to get there. The way her own husband, Louis, God rest him, had died of a heart attack at 52, leaving her with a 10-year-old David and a mountain of medical bills. She had buried Louis in a pine box because oak was too expensive, and then she had gone back to work the next Monday, her black dress still smelling of funeral lilies. All of it, the cracked hands, the aching back, the nights she fell asleep standing at the ironing board, had been for this: 74 acres of red Georgia clay, a white clapboard house with green shutters, and a porch wide enough to hold a lifetime of quiet mornings. She had paid for every inch with her own sweat, and now her son thought he could claim it the way a child claims a toy. Hilda set the coffee cup on the rail and went inside. She opened the hall closet, pushed past winter coats and Christmas decorations, and pulled out a box labeled Important Papers. Inside was the deed, crisp and official, her name typed in block letters. Hilda Morales, sole owner. She ran her thumb over the embossed seal. Then she found the contract with Premium Corporate Events. 5 crisp pages, signed in triplicate, and $5,000 already wired to her account. She smiled. Tomorrow the farm would belong to executives in tailored suits, not to a wedding party that had forgotten to ask. She slept better than she had in months. Saturday dawned hot and gold. Hilda was up at 5, same as always. She fed the chickens, watered the tomatoes, and swept the porch until the boards gleamed. By 9 o'clock, the air smelled of cut grass and honeysuckle. She put on her best dress, navy cotton with tiny white flowers, the one she'd bought for David's college graduation, and pinned her silver hair into a neat bun. She looked like a woman who had somewhere important to be, because she did. At 11:47 a.m., the first truck arrived, a white van with Premium Corporate Events stenciled on the side in gold script. Henry Smith stepped out, crisp in a linen suit despite the heat. He shook Hilda's hand like she was the CEO. "Mrs. Morales, you look radiant. The property is even more stunning in daylight." "Thank you, Henry. Let's get your people settled." By 1:15, the farm was transformed. White tents bloomed across the east lawn like mushrooms after rain. Round tables draped in navy linen sat beneath them, each centered with a low arrangement of white roses and eucalyptus. A portable dance floor gleamed under a canopy of string lights. Security guards in discreet black polos stood at the gate, checking badges against a printed list. A catering truck unloaded silver chafing dishes that smelled of garlic and rosemary. Somewhere, a string quartet tuned up, the notes floating over the mango trees like birds. Hilda watched from the porch, arms crossed, a small, satisfied smile on her lips. This was what her land was worth. Not a backdrop for someone else's Instagram, not a free venue with a built-in maid, a place where powerful people paid to stand on her dirt. At 11:58 p.m., a black SUV screeched up the driveway, kicking gravel. David and Jessica tumbled out, still in jeans and t-shirts, faces blotchy with panic. Behind them came a second car, Jessica's parents, judging by the matching expressions of outrage. "Mom!" David's voice cracked across the yard. "What the hell is this?" Hilda descended the porch steps slowly, deliberately. "Language, mijo. We have guests." Henry appeared at her elbow, tablet in hand. "Mrs. Morales, the executive's helicopters will touch down in 20 minutes. Is everything to your satisfaction? Perfect, Henry, thank you. David's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Jessica's eyes were red-rimmed. You can't do this, she hissed. We have 200 people on their way. Then I suggest you direct them to whatever venue you've secured as a backup, because this one is booked. Jessica's mother, a thin woman in pearls, stepped forward. This is elder abuse. We'll have you in court so fast. Ma'am, Henry interrupted smoothly, Mrs. Morales is well within her rights. The contract is ironclad. I'd advise against threats on private property. He nodded to a security guard, who moved to block the steps. David looked around wildly. The tents, the tables, the string quartet now playing Packel's canon. His shoulders sagged. Mom, please. For the first time, Hilda heard something like fear in his voice. Not anger, not entitlement. Fear. And for a moment, her heart wobbled. She remembered the day David was born, how tiny he'd been, how his fist had curled around her finger like a question mark. She remembered teaching him to ride a bike in the apartment complex parking lot, running alongside until her lungs burned. She remembered the night he came home drunk at 16, crying because a girl had broken his heart, and how she'd held him until dawn. But then she remembered the parties, the trash bags full of beer cans, the way Jessica had once handed her a stack of dirty plates with a breezy "Thanks, Hilda," as if she were staff, the way David had stopped calling on her birthday unless he needed something. She straightened her spine. You made a choice, David. Now I've made mine. A low thrum filled the air. 2 helicopters appeared on the horizon, sleek and black, descending toward the cleared field behind the barn. The string quartet shifted into something upbeat and modern. Executives in sunglasses began to spill out, laughing, shaking hands. Jessica let out a sound halfway between a sob and a scream. This is our wedding day! No, Hilda said quietly. This is my farm. The corporate event was a triumph. The executives, a mix of tech CEOs and venture capitalists, raved about the rustic authenticity. They took selfies with the mango trees, toasted Hilda with champagne, and one silver-haired man from San Francisco offered to buy the entire property on the spot for $3 million. She laughed and told him it wasn't for sale. Not yet. David and Jessica's wedding, meanwhile, imploded in real time. Guests arrived to find the gate locked and a polite security guard handing out printed cards. Due to a scheduling conflict, the Morales-Bennett wedding has been relocated. Please contact the couple for details. Most turned around and left. A few diehards followed David's frantic directions to a VFW hall 20 miles away, where folding chairs and a cash bar awaited beneath fluorescent lights. By sunset, Hilda stood on her porch watching the last helicopter lift off. The tents were already coming down, the lawn remarkably unscathed. Henry approached with an envelope. Your final payment, Mrs. Morales, and a bonus. The client was so impressed they added a gratuity. He handed her a check for $7,500. You should do this more often. You've got a gold mine here. She took the check, folded it neatly, and slipped it into her dress pocket. Maybe I will. That night, after the last truck rolled away, Hilda sat in her kitchen with a glass of sweet tea and the deed spread out before her. The house was quiet again, the way she liked it. She thought about calling David, about offering some olive branch, but her phone stayed dark. Instead, she opened her laptop, an ancient Dell she'd bought at a yard sale, and started a new document. She titled it Morales Farm Events. By midnight, she had a rough website mocked up, a price sheet, and a calendar with 3 inquiries already waiting in her inbox. 3 weeks later, David showed up alone. No Jessica, no bravado. Just a thin young man in a wrinkled shirt standing on her porch with his hands in his pockets. Hi, Mom. She studied him. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Coffee? He nodded. They sat at the kitchen table, the same one there she had once helped him with algebra homework. Steam curled between them. I'm sorry, he said finally. I was an asshole. Yes, she agreed. You were. He flinched. Jess left me, said I ruined everything. Maybe I did. Hilda sipped her coffee. You didn't ruin everything. You just forgot who I am. I thought... He stopped, rubbed his eyes. I thought the farm was like ours, family. I didn't think you'd mind. I minded, she said softly. I minded a lot. Silence stretched. Outside, wind chimes tinkled in the breeze. I miss you, he whispered. I miss us. Hilda reached across the table and took his hand. His fingers were cold. I miss you too, mijo. But missing isn't enough. Respect is. He nodded, tears slipping down his cheeks. What do I have to do? She considered. Start by helping me paint the barn. Then we'll talk about the rest. Over the next year, the farm changed. Hilda hosted 6 more corporate events, 2 small weddings, with contracts signed in blood, or close enough, and 1 bat mitzvah for a tech mogul's daughter. She hired a groundskeeper, Maria, a single mom from town, and a part-time event coordinator. Money flowed in, enough to fix the roof, install solar panels, and start a scholarship fund at the community college for girls studying agriculture. David came every weekend. He painted the barn cherry red, repaired the fence, and learned to prune mango trees without bruising the fruit. Jessica never apologized. She moved to Atlanta and married someone else in a ballroom with no character. David didn't go. One Sunday in late October, Hilda and David sat on the porch watching the sunset over the avocado grove. The air smelled of wood smoke and ripe fruit. David had gained weight, lost the hollow look in his eyes. He was dating a quiet woman named Sarah, who taught 3rd grade and brought Hilda homemade empanadas. Mom, he said, I found something in the attic when I was cleaning. He handed her a yellowed envelope. Inside was a photograph. Hilda at 25, standing in front of a tiny apartment building, David toddling at her feet. On the back, in Luis's handwriting, for our someday farm. Hilda's eyes filled. I forgot this existed. David put an arm around her shoulders. We've got the farm now, and we've got time. She leaned into him, the weight of 40 years settling into something lighter. The mango trees rustled overhead, heavy with fruit. Somewhere in the distance, a helicopter buzzed. Another booking, another triumph. Hilda smiled. This was her empire, and for the first time, it felt like enough. Epilogue. 5 years later. The Morales Farm Events website now had a 5-star rating and a waiting list 18 months long. Hilda, at 70, had hired a full staff and spent her days in the garden or on the porch with a tablet approving floral arrangements and tasting menus. David managed operations, his easy charm winning over even the pickiest brides. Sarah taught at the local school and helped with weekend workshops for kids, how to plant tomatoes, how to graft citrus, how to build something that lasts. On the 5th anniversary of the infamous almost wedding, Hilda threw a party. Not corporate, not for profit, just family and friends, 50 people max, under the mango trees strung with fairy lights. There were no round tables, no string quartet, just long picnic tables, paper plates piled with tamales and peach cobbler, and a playlist David had made of every song Hilda had ever hummed while cooking. At dusk, David clinked a spoon against his beer bottle. "Speech!" someone yelled. He stood, a little nervous. 5 years ago, I almost lost the most important person in my life because I was too stupid to see her. Mom, this farm, this family, everything good we have now, it's because you taught me what ownership really means. Not just a deed, but pride and love, and saying no when you need to. He raised his glass. To Hilda Morales, the toughest, kindest, most badass woman I know. Glasses clinked. Someone started singing De Colores, off-key but loud. Hilda laughed until tears ran down her cheeks, happy ones this time. Later, when the stars came out and the kids chased fireflies, Hilda slipped away to the edge of the avocado grove. She pressed her hand to the trunk of the oldest tree, feeling the rough bark under her palm. 45 years ago, she was a girl with cracked hands and a dream. Now, she was a woman with calluses turned to wisdom, a legacy in the soil, and a son who finally saw her. She whispered to the tree, to the night, to the memory of Luis watching somewhere beyond the stars, "We made it, mi amor. We really did."